welcome to another episode of Get a Good Start. Don't forget to visit getagoodsstart.com for links to our guests and a list of action items that can help you get a good start. Hello and welcome to another episode of Get a Good Start podcast. I'm your host, Scott Agnoli, and today we have a special show for you. You know, a lot of you have said to me, Scott, what if I don't want to go into the corporate world? What if I want to be an entrepreneur? What if I want to go start my own business? What if I want to be the next Van Gogh and be a painter? Or what if I want to be a musician and travel the world and be the next greatest rock star? I think what you're going to find in everything that we talked about up to now on the podcast and what you will find out today from a rock star is that if you follow your passion, anything is possible. So on to my guest. At the age of 10, he played on stage with the legendary Jerry Lee Lewis, Great Balls of Fire. He is the son of a minister. He's an ordained minister himself. Some call him the minister of music. I call him the host of happiness. He has been a frontman of several bands over the years. He's originally from Athens, Georgia, now residing in Mexico. He has been known to gain inspiration from common things like a shampoo bottle or working at the checkout line in Publix. Welcome to the show, the multi-talented and insanely happy Connor Tribble. Connor, welcome to the show.
Buenas tardes, Scott. I'm delighted and very flattered to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no, it's great to have you on. You know, Connor, I'm going to kick off this show like I always do and ask my famous question. What does getting a good start mean to you? And you know, how does it mean to you? What does it mean to you as with regards to the day or the week, whatever, however it applies to you? What does getting a good start mean to you?
And you mean like a daily start, by the way?
Sure, yeah.
Correct? Okay. I can tell you, because I do the same thing every day. Before I get out of bed, I read a couple of verses of the Bible. I write a poem, and then I listen to some music. I'm a very seasonal guy, so these days it's Christmas music. And that is how I get out of bed and start my day. It always includes songwriting, poems that's always in my head, but that's how I start every day.
You know, a lot of people I have talked to and interviewed on this show tell me about a routine similar to yours. While the individual parts may be different, whether it's reading the Bible, reading a book, maybe meditating, I think it's all part of the same process that successful people have who have crafted a real significant life as far as I'm concerned. But certainly we all think, boy, if I could go back, right? If I go back and tell myself something, and if I said to you, Connor, I could put you in a time machine with Michael J. Fox, fire up that DeLorean, get going 88 miles an hour, and send you back in time to when you were like 20, 22 years old, what kind of advice would you give yourself, knowing everything you learned from here all the way back?
That is a very easy question and a very important one. I wish that I had always followed my heart. It's so easy to get involved with other people's ideas. I don't know anything about other businesses, but this is a creative thing. And it's also, your image is so important, I guess, in any business, but in this business. And I wish I had never, ever listened to anyone else. I've had some great managers and people who helped me, but so many times you're in a situation where people are supporting you, pouring money into you, and they are giving you advice, maybe, and they're in a much bigger position than you are. You're trying to get started. And in my heart, I thought, this isn't going to work. This is not me. This does not feel right. But I was afraid to say anything because I was finally had a big management deal or had a record deal or whatever. That is the main advice I would give anybody, anytime, in any occupation. Follow your heart, no matter who tells you, oh, no, you should do this. Follow your heart. Always, always.
So it's harder gut. Some people say that's the gut feeling, right?
Yes.
You
I was
say
going
it's
to
a
use that
heart
word,
feeling.
but
No. I think the two are synonymous because I think less people who are less of the organized religion world will say it's from my gut. The gut check. I think people who have any kind of moral compass or spiritual compass would say it's from the heart. I agree with you. It's the heart. You know, how does the heart feel? I mean, the heart wants what it wants, and it's gonna help you through that path. I think that intuition is the world pushing you in the right direction, and certainly, you know, many of my students have a hard time deciding what that
Yeah,
direction is, and how to pursue a path. I mean, if we look at students today, it's almost like if you haven't decided what you want to be when you're in preschool, you're on the wrong track, right? Yeah,
yeah.
because there's you have to get in the right high school, you have to go to the right college, you have to pick the right program. A lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. And for all my students, I think it's important to also consider working. They might not want to work for somebody else. They might not want to work for a big corporation. And it's not everyone's cup of tea, right? I would like to draw a parallel between yourself as a musician and some entrepreneur. Because I think in both most cases you have to self-fund your dream, you have to go out and self-promote and you have to take all the risk, and in the end you made a life entertaining people. And I'm sure it's not always a easy road. It must have been a very difficult road at times, but why did you do it? Why did you go down this path of being a musician?
Okay, I'm going to be very honest with you here. Uh, Ever since I was a little kid, I always pretended to be somebody. I never played baseball. None of the things that most little guys go do. I always pretended to be Peter Pan. Then I pretended to be Tarzan. Then I pretended to be James Bond. When the Beatles came out, I pretended to be a Beatle.
Hmm.
And I was very fortunate in the fact that I knew at the age of 9, that's what I'm doing. You can't really make a living out of pretending to be Peter Pan. Maybe you can, but anyway, um, I just want to, as you'll hear this from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of musicians, when they saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, they knew what they wanted to do. And again, I was so fortunate in that because I know so many people who, even after going to college, don't really have a real feeling, a real passion for something. And so that's how that started for me. And I will say this, it wasn't a music thing. I never really cared about being a great guitar player or a great singer. It was that a moment ago you mentioned about that I want to, like a coffee shop. No, I want to be like Elvis and Mick Jagger, 100,000 people watching me and screaming. I admit it. Uh, like the Beatles had 5 number one hits, all bam, bam, bam. The top 5 were all Beatles. I wanted that, and I still do. But I would say if you're starting out and you just feel something, let's face it, you're going to spend most of your life doing whatever your occupation is. And it's so sad if you don't enjoy that and don't feel a passion for it. And again, I've been very fortunate in that, but that's how I got started, and it never stopped. And I never once ever, no matter what was going on or what was going, ups and downs, I never thought, I just know it was always boom, I'm going to do this.
I think you bring up a real important point, Connor, which is passion. You had passion for music. You saw you, and it wasn't necessarily just music. Like you said, you didn't care if you're the best singer or guitar player, but it's really the entertaining, right? Making people happy with what you're doing.
Exactly.
And I think passion is such an important part that everyone needs to find. And I think coming if students are going through college and they finish college, I think they have that minute between they go, I want to go find a corporate job, or let me start my own business, or let me do something totally different. I think that's an important part of life because, I think I heard Warren Buffett, who's richer than that guy? Well, Elon Musk is, but he's a pretty rich guy, Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett's got some loot. And Warren Buffett has said one time, he goes, you can be an accountant your whole life and be successful. And also one day the accounting firm fires you and you pretty much are out of job. So kind of a failure, right? You've built and you think you're going to go be the president of the company and they fire you, get rid of you. And he says, why not go out and be daring enough to fail at something you're really passionate about?
Yeah,
I like the phrase "have the guts to suck at something," because I think if you try that,
that's
you you will overcome. There will be no sucking at it. You'll be good at it because you're doing what you love to do and shoot for the stars. And if you think about the passion and all that, what do you define as success, Connor? I mean, when you get on stage every night, is that success? Making a living at being able to be happy and bring people joy through your music, is that success for you? What, or haven't you reached it yet? Is it still an aspirational thing? How do you define it?
I'll tell you, for me personally, and you're asking me these questions, so that's how I'm going to answer it. I honestly, my main thing is to make someone happy. I don't care if I'm singing in a little bar and there's one guy. This has happened to me. I don't know how many times. One guy's at the bar, you can tell he's kind of down about something. Only guy in the room. And if I sing a song, it makes that guy kind of look up from his drink and look over at me, and I see him tap his foot. That to me is what I do. And I like making people happy. I have never cared about money or owning things. Like, I'm having so much fun these days, even though I haven't been performing that much. I put my little videos of my song on Facebook, and people get on there and say, "Oh, this song made me so happy." That is success for me. And yes, I'd like to play to a stadium full of 100,000 people and make all of them happy. But in the meantime, um, that's what making them happy makes me happy. That's my passion.
And and the realistic nature of it. I mean, when you were in New York for like you were there for probably like 12 years or so, probably, right?
Longer than that, over at one point, it's like at least half my life. I was there a long time.
Okay. I mean, you did enough music and playing out and uh to make a decent living to where you lived, right? And you
See,
were able to survive and I would say you thrived because if you're doing something you love, um and you're not living in a shopping cart, down by the river, even then, I think you're doing good. I mean, you're doing good, and you did that, and then you now you were down in Athens for a while. Love Athens, Georgia, big college venue, right? Lot of place to play out there. You know, I know you said, you know, you didn't really think about the money too much, but you're lugging around your equipment in and out of clubs, sometimes for little pay, maybe a percentage of the door, a dollar at the door of the door, and you walk out here with almost nothing. You back breaking work really going in and out of these clubs in between different bands. Was there ever a time when you said, "Psh, it sucks. I don't want to do this anymore." And if that ever entered your mind, how did you get past that? How do you get up the next day and say, "I'm gonna go and try to get into this bar tonight to play"?
that never once entered my mind. There, the only time anything like that ever happened is if I had a steady gig somewhere and I just got burnt out with it. That has happened where I just, and it would click. I'm real good about things clicking in my head, and I just know something. And that has happened, but it never once, no matter what was going on, all the ups and downs, I never once thought, you know what, I this just didn't happen. Been doing this for X amount of years. So to answer your question, that never happened. So I never had to um, get myself around it.
So
It's
you
never happened.
So I think, hearing that, and I thought that's how you're going to answer. So that's why I had a follow-up question prepared for that. A friend of mine, he is so positive, and he would say, "Okay, what's the next plan?" Like maybe something didn't go the way you wanted, so what's the next plan? And I used to say to him, "Well, how do you keep yourself motivated like that?" And he used to say whenever he got to a crossroads of anything, whether it was his job, whether it was family, whether relationship, and he said, I can't do this anymore, he flipped around the vocabulary and said, I haven't figured out how to do it yet. So he doesn't use the word this phrase "I can't do this." He says, "I haven't figured out how to do it yet." Did you have something similar in your life when you got to, maybe you did a string of shows, they didn't come out the way you wanted, or maybe you're playing with bandmates who really weren't your cup of tea, or maybe you outgrew them maybe? What was your attitude? What was your motivation to say, "How do I keep going?" How do you keep it lively for yourself? What'd you do?
It's very simple. I always just want to get my songs out there. And so that was just always uh, or perform. Of course, I had to make a living, of course, do cover stuff. And at one point, I resented doing that. I shouldn't be having to sing Brown Eyed Girl for the 10 millionth time or whatever. But I finally, at one point, went, you better be glad people want to hear you sing Brown Eyed Girl.
Right.
And I went through a lot of stuff like that. And, I had a lot of people, managers and club people say, oh, your songs you need to be more uh, straight ahead kind of thing. And that goes back to, that was always a mistake to listen to them. But I just wanted to sing my songs. And of course, that meant having a gig where I've got to sing Brown Eyed Girl along with it. That's cool. So I always was, whatever was going on in my life, I was always thinking, what's the best way I can get my songs out to the most people? And I ran the whole gamut, from so many years as a solo entertainer, which of course is much easier. So you got a band, you're writing songs all the time. You got to
Mhm.
show all these songs, and I write a lot of songs to the band, do a lot of rehearsing, and it always is easier to just do solo stuff. Of course, there have been many times in my life when I had marvelous bands with marvelous people, and I was so blessed to have that in my life, to have these wonderful musicians, sometimes not getting paid anything,
Right.
who simply wanted to perform my song. Makes me get a little weepy thinking about it. So to answer your question, I just did whatever I could at the moment to sing my songs to as many people as possible.
You know, I
That'd be the answer.
Yeah, it's a great answer. And, I think the students who listen to my podcast need to really extract from this conversation. It goes back to passion, right? It goes back to feeling your heart, what's in your heart and the direction, and I think you wouldn't find all these things out. You wouldn't get the joy from performing from that one guy in the bar. You wouldn't find that from performing for a whole group of people and a big band behind you. You just had to go out there every day and try it. You just had to go out every day and perform it. And you sum it up by saying, I just want to get my songs out there. So every day you came up, you wrote your poem, maybe you generated a song from that, or you're in the shower looking at the shampoo bottle and you made a song out of
And that
that.
happened. That
I
wasn't
know.
that on
Lather, rinse,
Christmas Street. Yep, yep.
yeah, lather, rinse, and repeat. So, you know, the students need to think about this journey that you were on and really say, well, how does that apply to me? Well, I'm going to tell you, students, this is how it applies to you. You're not going to sit there in your house and hope your dream knocks on your door and takes you on a journey. You have to get off your couch, you have to go out the door, and you have to put yourself out there every day and try and try and try. You have to be willing to fail or willing to make no money sometimes in order to experience the things you want to experience. And that drives the passion. I believe that drives the passion. You have to go out there every day and continue to do it. Would you agree with
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. Fear is a terrible uh, hindrance, I think, for anybody. I can only speak for myself. But if you, going back to following your heart again, if you feel like, nope, this is what I want to do, no matter what anybody says or a club owner says, you better don't do that or whatever, you have to have the courage, again, to do what your heart tells you. And you also have to trust yourself, and don't second guess yourself. If you feel that strongly, I had a thought a moment ago, I'm trying to get back to it. But you have, again, if you write a song and something tells you, I know this is going to be great, but oh, this is what I wanted to say. never ever anticipate what an audience or anyone is going to think or how they're going to react to a song, because you do not know. You don't know. There have been so many times I learned this the hard way. You're sitting there waiting to get up on stage, maybe a band's playing before you. You think, I'm going to get up there and sing this, and they're going to go wild, and they don't. And vice versa. You have to just say, you know what I want to do tonight? I want to sing this song and do this. And you just have to get out there, like you just said. Sitting home, it's not going to happen. You know, you have to get out there in the world and experience things and have ups and downs. And, you know, songwriting material is everywhere. We talked at one point about me working at Publix, which was the first real job I had. And you and I talked about that was the greatest mecca, if that's the right word, songwriting ideas. It was insane. I had one of those little micro cassette things in my pocket. And, you know, people checking out people's groceries, and I probably wrote like 5 or 6 songs a day. So it was, you know, I made a joke. If you're a songwriter, get a job at Publix or something like that, because you just hear so much great stuff. So yes, you have to get out there, have no fear, and again, do what you feel is right in your heart, no matter what anybody says. Do it, as my daddy would say. Do it.
You know, similar to you talking about how you never know what people are going to think of your song. It might be a hit, might be a flop. That particular crowd, that particular night may love it. The next crowd, the next night may hate it. I think it applies to every student and actually every person, because there's some corporate folks that listen to my podcast. You know, you don't know how people are going to react to your ideas. You may not, you may have an invention in your head that you think is a great invention, but if it just stays in your head, it doesn't help anybody. You know, if you
Nope.
have a business idea, if you don't try it, how do you know? And if you look at all the great quote unquote success stories in life, it's all about people trying again and trying again and failing, trying again and failing, trying again and failing. And then they try that one more time, it clicks. And you know, it's the passion of wanting to do that that drives you to the success. And that success can be, I call it significance. You know, I don't define success money through money or valuable things or material things. I consider success as experiences and how can I help other people. And I think you derive a lot of that from helping people feel happy from your music. And you know, I think if you operate that way, you're going to find a significant, satisfying life. Would you agree?
I completely agree. And when you feel like you really just have to go do something, and maybe another part of your mind says, I don't know. Da, da, da. No, go do that, because you, like we talked about earlier, if you don't do it, you'll never know. You don't want to be, you know, lying around years from now going, gosh, why didn't I do that? Because you asked me earlier, could I go back in time? I do think, why didn't I tell that manager this? Why didn't I be more forceful with my ideas and say, guys, this isn't working. Let
Yeah,
me try this. And I was scared because I didn't want them to say, well, if you don't do what we say,
you're
you
out.
know, sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
And, but I wish I had. But on the other hand, you know, I learned things doing that. And it's just like I often say, if you're tired, this is talking about me to songwriters, but I'm sure the same thing in any job. If you're tired, had a rough day, and you have an idea or something, you go, oh, I don't feel like doing it. For me, I don't want to go get out of bed and go get my guitar, although I have my guitar with me most of the time. But if you, for any reason, feel like picking up your guitar, or if you have a business thing, whatever, do it. Don't lie there. How many times have I had a song idea and I don't have my recorder with me? I'll remember in the morning, and I don't. Why didn't you record that little bit? Maybe that would have been satisfaction or something.
right.
And always, always, if you have an idea, follow through with it. miss that chance.
Connor, I want to close out our conversation with, everybody, a lot of students will ask me, Scott, tell me about, the corporate life. Tell me about business. Tell me about life in general, right? And I think, outside of the music business, which I'm sure you got plenty of bumps and bruises and learned many things, you went to some big cities and, you were in the biggest city. You were in New York City as a musician. And I'm sure you learned some life lessons. Um, you went to Athens. Now you're down in Mexico. I'm sure you're learning some more life lessons. Um,
See,
what kind of sage advice could you pass on to students about the real world um, that you picked up? And it may not be necessarily directly related to the music industry or the entertainment industry, but just in life in general. They teach a lot of things in college, but they don't teach you about the real world sometimes. And I think that common sense, street smart, if you will, that students need to know when they enter the world out of the cocoon of college. How can they protect themselves? How can they? What sage advice would you give them? Fatherly advice, if you will.
it would be the same thing I've already said. It's just so important to follow your heart. You get caught up in so many things, and whatever your idea of success is, you think you've got to listen to people. And I'm repeating myself now, but
Right? No, that's fine.
that really sticks out with me about doing what you feel right about. And I'll tell you this, whenever I did not listen to myself, I regretted it many times. But when I listened to myself, no matter what was going on, I've never regretted that. Ever, ever, ever. And again, I'm repeating myself here, but it's very important. Never anticipate what people are going to think, because you don't know. Even as simple as having a conversation and you think, oh, he's thinking that, but he's saying this. You don't know. I don't care who you are. You don't really know what people are thinking. I don't know what an audience is thinking. Scott, I've sat there and watched an audience like, God, I'm not doing something right. They're bored. And they can, you are so great. I went, really? You look like, just because they weren't doing like that, they were
Right.
having a great time. And the whole time on stage, I was thinking, uh-oh, and so I guess that would be, again, those two big things. Follow your heart and never anticipate what anyone is going to think, because you don't know.
Well, Connor, I think the students and I'll go back and listen to this interview, and I'm going to draw some things out of it for students to walk away from and read out of my blog, because I'll put together a blog about our interview. And I really think the important takeaways from my interview with you is, that heart, the passion, follow your passion. Don't let
Absolutely.
fear direct you. I think a lot of people fall into the safety of, well, I went to college. Now I went, took an internship. Now I did this. You know, maybe there's another Elon Musk or Zuckerberg or somebody like that could bring so much more joy and happiness to people through the things they create, whether it be music or something physical like an iPhone, like Steve Jobs did. You know, there's so many other paths other than the traditional path. And I'm not saying everyone go out and quit college and go do something else, but follow your passion, because certainly you can learn a lot of things from the people in these institutions, but you really need to listen to folks like Connor and people who have had a life not of the traditional sense, because their life lessons, you will find, are very much matched to the career you may want. Those lessons apply 1000%. Connor, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. Folks, check out Connor. I will post a link to his Facebook profile, and you can friend him and check out his if you search his name on Google, you will find a bunch of fun videos and his music, and he's a joy to listen to and be entertained by. Thank you so much, Connor.
Scott, it's been so much fun. Again, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.